Discover the sinister truth. 7 Hush Reasons Why Antarctica is Cursed and Forbidden to Explore. Amelia tightened her grip on the steering wheel, heart racing as she wiped another bead of sweat from her forehead. The neighborhood lay shrouded in an oppressive darkness, shadows creeping under every porch light. Her knees felt weak as she pulled into their quiet street. The news had announced strange symbols appearing all over town fences, sidewalks like omens screaming from the night. What had started as harmless graffiti was now a chilling spectacle, a curse stretching back to her father's ill-fated expedition. Just a few weeks ago, her life was filled with normalcy. Then everything changed, pets vanished, and a thick fog of paranoia clung to every block. "Mom! Look!" Max's voice burst through the stale air, his excitement a small beacon. He pointed to a bizarre, swirling symbol painted on the stubborn gray wall of an abandoned house. "Can we see? Did Grandpa draw that?" "Stay close," Max's anxiety knotted in her stomach. She felt eyes watching them, the prickling awareness of her neighbors, whispers trailing like ghosts on the breeze. Laughter turned into suspicious murmurs. What were they hiding? The air twisted with unanswered questions, and dread pooled in the pit of her stomach. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Max marveled at the swirling design, eyes glimmering with an excitement Amelia couldn't share. The symbols seemed to pulse with energy, an invisible force darts in the air. "It's just some kids messing around," she told him, though uneasy nod at her certainty. But deep down, doubts formed. They were watching, waiting. Then came the whispers from the depths of her father's past, a darkness he had sealed away. As weeks wore on, pets disappeared, first the Johnson's cat, then Mr. Webb's dog. Mistrust grew like mold, neighbors whispered behind closed doors. Not just pets vanished, but innocence too. Amelia felt herself spiraling down a darkened tunnel of sleepless nights and panic. All this anxiety pulled at the threads holding their lives together. But then, that night, a night that would create a rift in Amelia's world, Max ventured off after finding a hidden tunnel in the woods, an echo of the secrets her father hid. The moment she realized he was gone, terror cascaded through her. The air turned heavy. He had gone to find answers buried beneath layers of frost and whispers. Time slipped away as shadows loomed closer, and while Amelia searched, she stumbled upon the very historian who had breathed life into her father's cursed legacy. The icy chill of knowledge washed over her, chilling her to the bone. She wasn't just looking for Max. She was confronting shadows of an ancient force tied to their bloodline. The clock ticked heavy with dread as everything became clear. To save Max, Amelia would have to wrestle with truths buried in ice, risking not only their lives but the safety of the whole neighborhood. What would happen when the curse awakened? What dark forces lay beyond the icy veil of Antarctica? The answers demanded sacrifice, and the clock was mercilessly ticking down. Amelia's heart thundered as she retraced her steps through the thickening shadows of her street, desperation clawing at her throat. Every rustle of leaves sent her spine tingling, every flicker of light seemed to hold a malevolent glimmer. What could have led Max to that tunnel? What did he hope to find? All that filled her mind were images of open mouths spouting secret, terrible things. "Max!" she called, her voice cracking. The echoes danced off the empty houses, returning only a heavy silence that wrapped around her like a shroud. The entire neighborhood felt suffocating, stifled by a burden of dread. She rushed into the woods, the moonlight barely breaking through the dense branches. The tunnel! She felt a jolting fear. Something in those darkened depths was now intertwined with her family's legacy. The trees twisted grotesquely overhead, their gnarled branches resembling arms reaching out to capture her. Max! The name was a prayer, an incantation, but the only response was the rustle of creatures hiding from the person they sensed was close to the brink of madness. Each step felt like sinking deeper into quicksand, into the untold stories her father had desperately tried to keep buried. Panic bubbled in her throat as she neared the entrance of the tunnel. It yawned wide, like a mouth waiting patiently. Littered at the entrance were remnants of past explorers' old crates, broken gear, and a slew of strange artifacts unlike anything she'd ever seen. The air grew thick, heavy with a grave chill that permeated her bones and narrowed her breaths. This was no ordinary place, and her father's expedition had discovered something horrific. In that moment, amidst shadows and starlight, a figure emerged from the tunnel's darkness, blinking and staggering into the faint moonlight. Amelia gasped, her heart stopping. It wasn't Max. It was a man, gray and gaunt, like a spectre brought forth from the grave. His eyes reflected a crazed shimmer, almost unnatural, and there was a whisper on his lips, words lost to the air. "What do you seek? What have you awakened?" he muttered, words laced with an unsettling urgency. Had he been there all along, watching? "Where's my son?" Amelia's voice rose, echoing her panic. The man's face twisted, a grimace of sorrow and warning. "You must turn back. It's not what you think," he hissed, taking a step closer, but the shadows pulled away from him, as if repelled by some unseen force. "The curse. The ice remembers. It hungers." Emotions battled within her, fear played vicious games with her sanity. Her mind screamed for Max, yet curiosity tugged at her heels. What curse was he talking about? The echoes of her father's expedition began to surface, dark truths buried beneath layers of ice and time. "Amelia, listen, you don't understand." He reached for her, but she took a step back, wary of whatever madness pooled in his gaze. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Suddenly, someone else's voice cut through the tension. "Mom!" A small, familiar tone broke the suffocating aura, and Amelia's heart leapt. "Max?" She turned, scanning the darkness frantically, her pulse racing. A glimmer of light broke through the trees, illuminating her son's silhouette nestled against the tunnel's mouth. But there was something off about him. His expression was hollow, eyes wide and cold, glistening with a strange luminescence. "Mom, come see," he said, his voice a haunting echo of excitement blended with a chill she couldn't place. Amelia's heart sank. Who stood before her? Was this the same boy who had laughed just hours ago? As she stepped toward Max, the man from the shadows shouted, "No! You mustn't go with him. He's no longer who he was." Caught on the edge of a treacherous precipice, she hesitated. What awaited her beyond was unknown, but the weight of decision was crushing. "Mom, please!" Max's plea reached her, but it held an eerie tremor, as if layered with secrets she'd yet to uncover. Compelled by maternal instinct, she would have to choose. Would she trust a boy who might not be her son? Would she risk everything or heed the ghostly warnings swirling around her? The story was no longer just about the curse. It was about survival. But the question remained, what grim truth was about to be unleashed? Max's words hung in the thick air, weighted with an unsettling promise that twisted Amelia's stomach into knots. The man from the shadows recoiled, glancing between her and Max as if he could sense the impending rupture of a fragile reality. "Mom, it's amazing. You have to see." Max's luminous eyes sparkled with a fervor that sent chills racing down Amelia's spine. She felt trapped in a nightmare, oscillating between the boy she loved and this strange imitation before her. "Max, please stay where you are," she managed, trying to keep her voice steady while her heart thrashed wildly. The unnatural glow of his eyes only deepened her fear. This was not her son. "Come on, Mom. You'll understand everything if you just look." His enthusiasm jarred against her instincts. The shadows curled around him like serpents, and she knew something was profoundly wrong. Was this truly her child, or a perverse reflection shaped by the darkness of the tunnel? The gaunt man surged forward, panic etched in his features. "Amelia! You have to listen! Whatever lies within that tunnel, whatever is in your son, is not of this world. You don't know the danger!" But Amelia could feel a magnetic pull toward Max, an invisible thread woven from love and desperation. "You're lying!" she snapped, her voice rising as adrenaline flowed through her. You don't know him. He my son. Then look closer. Look into those eyes. The man's voice quivered, desperation mingling with fear. Max flared his arms wide in what seemed like an invitation. I'm right here, Mom. You love me, don't you? Come see. A hint of something dark and mocking tinged his words, like a chill wrapping around her heart. Amelia's mind raced. No, this can't be right. She glanced back at the man, who was shaking his head, anguish spreading across his fragile features. Do you sense it? He whispered, his voice trembling. The hunger, the need to pull you in. It's beckoning. Can't you hear it? In that moment, a soft pulse thudded beneath her skin, a rhythm that drowned out the night's sounds. The trees shuddered, and the air thickened, pregnant with foreboding. Amelia took a step back from the tunnel's mouth, feeling the grip of the darkness tighten around her. Max, we need to go home. The panic seeped into her voice, layers of dread curling around her like smoke. But deep down, another voice whispered what if following him was the key to understanding her father's secrets. Don't listen to him. Max's tone cocked a mix of irritation and impatience, his stance shifting as if he were ready to leap forward. Let us go. You need to see. Suddenly, the wind picked up, howling like a wounded beast through the branches. Amelia shielded her eyes from the grit and leaves, feeling disoriented. Her gut twisted at the sight of her son standing beside threatening shadows. Mom, Max said, and for a fleeting moment she thought she heard a sliver of her beloved boy's voice, lost amid something darker, twisted. Before she could answer, the gaunt man lunged, reaching for her hand. You have to trust me. I know how to break the curse. The tunnel must stay closed. Your father, no! She shouted, shaking her head. It felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling, time slipping through her fingers. She weighed the warnings, the pull of motherhood, and the gnawing desire to uncover truths buried beneath layers of ice, despair curling around her heart. As if sensing her turmoil, Max's face hardened. I'm done waiting. He stepped forward, shadows writhing closer to him, folding like curtains around a stage. Amelia! The man cried, voice urgent. You cannot let him cross into the void. And then, in that fracturing moment, Max turned back and said, Just trust me. The air crackled with tension, and Amelia stood frozen. Was it still her son in there, or something much more sinister? With a trembling heart, she reached out, but would she dare take that final step into the unknown? The shadows gathered, and a decision loomed like a monstrous specter at her side, waiting, hungry. What truth awaited her on the other side of the dark tunnel? Time slowed, breaths caught, and the weight of fate pressed in around her. Would she cross that threshold or flee from the tangible nightmare? The choice would write the next page in her family's cursed history. A chill shot through Amelia as she felt the magnetic force draw her closer to Max. The shadows flickered, twisting around her son's form like dancers in a macabre ballet. Every instinct told her to run, yet something deeper, a mix of fear and maternal instinct, urged her forward. Max, she whispered, desperation clawing at her throat. What are you? His smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too white. I'm all that you've ever wanted, Mom. Just take my hand. The darkness warped around him, flickers of malice lurking in every crevice, and she felt herself teetering on the edge of comprehension and oblivion. The man from the shadows, his face a mask of anguish, squeezed Amelia's arm. Do not trust him. He's not your son. Amelia's heart raced. The words echoed in her mind, painful and piercing. Yet the lure of Max's voice wrapped around her like a cloak. Could she truly believe the man? Could he save her, or was he as much a part of this horror as Max? Mom, please. The shimmering eyes of her child glimmered with a strange light. You'll be so happy once you see. Just step forward. The shadows coiled tighter, as if anticipating her decision, ready to claim her should she yield. Amelia! The man urged, voice shaking. You can't let the shadows in. It's not just a tunnel, it's a door to something vile. A gust of wind howled through the trees, a cacophony of screams and whispers punctuating the darkness. Shivers raced down her spine. She felt the frigid air wrap around her, pressing in, suffocating. What if they were right? The shadows pulsed, hungry, eager to consume whatever came near. What if I could change things? Amelia thought, battling with conflicting desires. What if I could know the truth about my father's past, our family's curse? Her thoughts spiraled, each loop more tantalizing yet terrifying than the last. Step into the light, Max urged. He stretched his hand further, shadows slithering around him as if begging her to join in the embrace. Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side. And in that moment, with the wind shrieking and shadows whispering sweet promises, Amelia's heart battled against her mind. She took one tentative step forward, an inch closer to Max, but she felt the gaunt man's grip tighten on her arm. Listen to me. He will consume you. His hunger knows no bounds. His eyes glimmered, a frantic plea bursting from him. You saw how he changed what else could live within him. The truth seemed to leap between them, the air thick with tension. She wavered, her heart pounding like thunder in her ears. What am I supposed to believe? How do I choose? Max's voice became tender, almost pleading. You know me. Don't let him confuse you. Trust your instincts. But that deep voice within her sank deeper, pushing at her conscience. How much trust had gotten her this far? The questions wrapped around her like chains. What if this thing is trying to take me? What if stepping forward means losing everything I love? As the shadows tallied their threats, they thickened, blocking out the moonlight like a massive hand. Amelia felt her breath quicken, her vision narrowing to the darkness encroaching from all sides. With each beat of her heart, her choice loomed larger, a cliff waiting to crumble underfoot. The gaunt man shook his head, tears glistening like ice in his eyes, a final plea shimmering in the air between them. But before she could solidify her resolve or continue her hesitant step, the tunnel behind Max writhed, the shadows swirling violently as an inhuman growl echoed through the darkness. The air vibrated, resonating with a primal hunger that sent shockwaves through her body. Mom! Max screamed, his voice shifting, morphing back into something cold, an alien. Time froze. Amelia stood at the precipice, the scream of the wind drowning out all rational thought. What was real? Where did love end and the horrifying unknown begin? The shadows shifted, revealing something more profound lying beneath them, something that wanted her very soul. Will you abandon me? Max's voice cut through the chaos, raw and breaking. Seconds stretched into eternity, the decision crumpling her lungs. Desperation coursed through her veins as she faced the monstrous choice. And then it came, that undeniable question that surged, what if she was already too late? Amelia's heart raced as the chilling echo of Max's morphed voice hung in the air, flipping her world upside down. She felt the gaunt man's grip tighten even further. His breath quickened, desperation spilling forth. Run! He gasped. You have to get away from him. The wind howled like a banshee, swirling around them, pulling at her clothes, wrapping around her legs like icy hands desperate to hold her down. Amelia's mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. The shadows around Max writhed and pulsed, and she caught glimpses of what lay hidden within eyes, mouths, teeth glinted in the dim light. No! She shouted, torn between love and truth, between the familiar safety of her son and the unsettling pull of something darker. Max, please. Mom, I promise I won't hurt you, he called sweetly, but there was a tremor in his tone that made her stomach lurch. He stepped closer, shadows billowing outwards like a cape, concealing his true form. I just need you to trust me. I'm the only one who can help. A deafening roar tore through the silence, reverberating off the trees surrounding them. The shadows flickered, revealing fleeting silhouettes of anguished faces, mouths open in silent screams. Her pulse quickened, thundering against her ribcage. They were souls, trapped and lost, peeling away from the shadows like layers of translucent skin. Help? She echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. Help from what? From you? The gaunt man's gaze was locked onto her. Fear replaced his earlier anguish, and in that moment she understood. Those things, they'll devour everything you love, he warned urgently, glancing sideways at Max, who was standing still, a predator watching its prey. The man took a tentative step closer. You must choose. You know what he is, Amelia. Don't let the shadows blind you. Stop. Max's voice cut through the air, sharp with a mingling of anger and desperation. He moved forward, shadows swirling violently around him, merging and thickening. Get away from her. Fear clutched at Amelia's heart like a vice. She felt trapped, suspended in an eternal moment. She could feel the darkness rising around them, an ominous wave increasingly hungry, pulsing with unseen malice. Amelia! The man implored, his voice breaking. Use your instincts. We're running out of time. She could see the shadows beginning to spill over the edges of Max's form, hungry beasts emerging from the depths, echoes of violence weaving through their intangible bodies. Slowly, she began to realize that every shadow was thrumming with the desperation of those lost eternally. They were all screaming to her, begging for a release. The moment stretched, the very air thickening with agonizing tension. Amelia felt torn, her heart straddling two worlds as Max reached out, his hand just inches from hers. What if he is telling the truth? The voice in her head whispered with a sinister sweetness. What if this is the key to our family? Our curse? Amelia! The man shouted again, desperation dripping from each syllable, as flickers of the hopeless caught her eye. You have to make a choice before it's too late. You're stronger than this darkness. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a guttural roar erupted from the tunnel behind Max, piercing the night like a blade. He stumbled back, momentarily losing his grip on her mind, and in that split second, the shadows howled, an echo of ancient anguish that filled Amelia's very being. In that moment of hesitation, as the darkness writhed and thrashed like a beast in pain, she felt clarity stab through her confusion. You'll never let me go. Max's expression twisted, revealing a flicker of something far beyond his childhood innocence. We belong together. And as everything fell still, Amelia faced the horror that loomed before her, the specter of truth. The darkness shifted once more, and the shadows coalesced into a dreadful figure, dripping malice and hunger. She inhaled sharply, realizing her decision must be made now or lose herself forever. What if this was not just about her son? What if there was something darker lurking in the shadows waiting to wake? With the earth trembling beneath her feet, Amelia jumped sharply between the two worlds threatening to subsume her, ready to make the hardest decision of her life. Mom? Max cried, voice spiraling into something other than human, twisted and drawn tight. She could feel the weight of the shadows condensing around her. Then came the final question, raw and unsettling. What if the real monster was the truth she'd already buried deep within herself? Amelia stood frozen in place, the world around her descending into chaos. A tempest swirled at her feet, feeding off her uncertainty. The air grew thick with the scent of decay as the shadows writhed like snakes, greedy and insatiable. Amelia! The gaunt man cried again, desperation clawing at his face. You're wasting precious time. His voice was a tether, a lifeline amidst the swirling darkness. She looked between him and Max, knowing that every second she hesitated deepened the abyss around them. Shadows twisted, eager mouths stretching wider, hungry. Mom, listen to me. Max's eyes glimmered, a whirlpool of innocence, and something disturbingly alien. I would never hurt you. We can be together forever. His voice was syrupy sweet, but something within it sent an icy shiver down her spine. Caught in a tug-of-war between maternal instinct and the dread tightening in her chest, she felt her resolve wavering. Above their heads, the sky split open, revealing a gaping maw of darkness. Something was rising. Something ancient, throbbing with forbidden hunger. A thick gray mist poured out, saturating the air with an otherworldly chill. She shivered, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. Max. I can't. The words escaped her lips, trembling with fear. What are you? In a heartbeat, shadows surged upward, engulfing Max in an inky veil as he sneered, his face contorted with a malevolence she had never witnessed in her own son. You know what I am? He hissed, and the shadows hissed back, as though alive. The gaunt man stepped forward, determined yet wary. "Please, Amelia," he asked, being controlled. "We have to fight this together. Those shadows feed on him, just like they want to feed on you." Max and the shadows around him began convulsing. "It's not your choice to make," he roared, his voice breaking into the cacophony of his mother's fears, a symphony of anguish and rage. The air churned, and the pounding of Amelia's heart danced to its own frantic rhythm. "Just let me in, Mom!" Max's plea pulled at her, striking a chord deep within her aching heart. What if the darkness was always meant to be a part of us? She felt the world tilt as the winds clamored for her attention, raising a storm of memories that had long been buried deep. Tragedy, loss, and silence echoed in her mind, battering her with familiar pains she had tried to forget. Ghosts of her past swarmed in the shadows. What if all of this was connected? "Let go of me!" she shouted. "I want to be a prisoner in your nightmare." Max screamed, a guttural roar that tore through the air, twisting into a cacophony of unearthly laughter. The shadows surged, hungry for her despair, pulsating with rage and anguish. Amelia was forced to confront the truth lurking within her. With a surge of adrenaline, she took a step forward, her heart pounding like thunder. "I will not let you take me!" Determination ignited in her chest like fire, dispelling the frigid weight of the shadows. But even as she took a stand, she realized the shadows' whispers grew more insistent, wrapping around her thoughts, churning like a turbulent sea. "Mom, don't you understand? We all share this darkness." Max's voice became a drown of sorrow. "You can't escape it. Embrace it, and I can save you." The shadows writhed angrily, a host of wailing faces clawing at the edges of her mind, drawing her into their abyss. The wind howled louder, blurring her vision, and for one dreadful moment, Amelia saw what lay beyond the veil: countless souls trapped in endless suffering, their eyes pleading for release. Panic clawed at her throat. If she chose wrong, everything she loved would be swallowed whole. The ground shook violently beneath her as she teetered on the edge of reality and nightmare, trembling under the weight of her decision. Her breath quickened. Make the choice. The frontiers of her mind screamed, the pull of family and shadows intertwining. Amelia felt the shadows close in, vibrating with angry zeal. The figures writhed closer, a siren call echoing around her, promising salvation while laced with inevitable doom. "Mom?" Max's voice became a soft whisper, chilling in its familiarity, a dangerous lullaby. "Where do you belong?" And in that pivotal moment, as the shadows reached out to claim her, an unsettling realization blanketed her mind. What if the fate of her family relied not on escape, but acceptance? The ground trembled once again, split by the relentless roar. As her heart raced, Amelia realized she had to confront this darkness head-on. But could she? And at what cost? What had she truly been running from? The shadows encroached as she prepared to make her choice, a choice that could unravel the very fabric of her reality. But little did she know, there were deeper horrors waiting to rise. Amelia's heart thundered in her chest as shadows fanned out, their icy tendrils brushing against her skin. She stood at the crossroads of desire and despair, Max's monstrous visage looming larger with each beat of her racing heart. The gaunt man's words echoed around her, but doubt crept in, seeping through the cracks of her resolve. "Embrace it." Max's voice slithered into her ears, a haunting melody that chilled her blood. "You know what we truly are, Mom. Don't fight it." The shadows danced eagerly, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to mock her. Desperation twisted her gut. She had to choose. Her eyes darted between the two figures: her son, the boy she had cradled in her arms, and the gaunt man, who appeared to be the only one with clarity. "No!" she breathed, shaking her head in denial. "You're not my son anymore. Just a puppet of the darkness." Max's laughter rang out, chilling and echoing, reverberating through her mind, making her stomach churn. "Amelia, you always wanted to know the truth. This is it. We are avatars of the shadows, destined for greatness." The shadows pulsed, dripping with the tangible weight of despair. They rushed toward her, hungry, clamoring for her surrender. With a forceful shove, Amelia swung her arms to dispel the encroaching darkness, but the shadows merely absorbed her energy, swirling into a tempest of fury. "Stop!" she screamed, the sound cracking through the ominous roars. "I won't let you take me. I will fight." The gaunt man stepped closer, his eyes wide with concern, casting glances at the growing storm of shadows that sought to engulf them. "Fight, Amelia! You are stronger than they are. You have a light they cannot extinguish." The shadows hesitated, recoiling slightly as her defiance sparked something within her. A flicker of hope ignited deep in her core, pushing back against the terror that threatened to swallow her whole. Could she truly resist? "Mom, please. I will help you. We can be free of this torment," Max pleaded, the shadows around him distorting his face into demon-like features. "Join me." Amelia closed her eyes, inhaling deeply to steady herself. Memories flooded in laughing, playing, moments of warmth with Max that felt eons away. The shadows whipped around her like a violent storm, stealing away fragments of her memory, turning them sinister in their grasp. Suddenly, an inkling of her childhood echoed in the depths of her mind. "You were never meant to control me," she murmured, as realization struck her like lightning. The shadows burned with her epiphany. "No! Don't!" Max howled, his voice warped with anguish. "You'll wish you hadn't. It's not too late to come with us." But the shadows recoiled, seething against the instinctual strength she had. Amelia felt the pulse of something within her wake, a long-forgotten courage buried beneath layers of fear and confusion. A whisper of power emanated from her very soul. They feared her. "I'm not one of you," she declared, her voice steadying. "I reject you." The shadows shrieked, spiraling back in a furious frenzy. They writhed like vipers, striking out in a desperate search for tendrils of her fear, but they found none. They had underestimated her. In a sudden bolt of instinct, she lunged forward, reaching out for the gaunt man. "Mike! Help me!" His eyes widened, and he grasped her hands, enveloping her with a protective warmth that cut through the frigid darkness. The moment their skin connected, light surged like wildfire, burning the shadows back momentarily. But within that respite, her heart raced with a chilling realization. "Mike! What if this is all just a trap? What if we're playing right into their hands?" The shadows seemed to snicker, coiling around her again, twisting her fear into projections, images of her deepest regrets coming alive. The gaunt man's gaze turned grave, a shadow of doubt dimming his eyes. "We need to keep moving. They want you to falter." But the shadows coiled tighter, surrounding them like a thick fog, whispering twisted promises of longing and desire. Amelia's breath quickened again as another thought took root in her mind. The moment they needed to leave was slipping beyond their reach. "Where do we go?" she shouted against the cacophony, fear twisting her voice. The pulse of darkness thickened, feeding on each second of uncertainty. "Follow me," Mike shouted back, nearly lost in the howling winds. "There's a place where they can't reach you. We have to make it now." As they surged forward, darkness snapping at their heels, Amelia could hear her heartbeat echoing louder than the chaos around her. Just when she thought they had made some ground, a shuddering howl erupted behind them, a warning of something far more sinister lurking within the dark. "Amelia!" Max's voice pierced the night again, a mixture of plea and threat. "You can't escape. You belong with me." With every ounce of will, she pressed on. But dread gnawed at her insides. What if the horrors weren't just waiting behind her? What if they were also in her heart? A new layer of terror set in as they barreled into the thickening maw of shadows, the line between escape and surrender starting to blur. As they plunged deeper, one question loomed over her: what if the real horror was yet to come? The shadows surged, hungry and relentless, as they pressed against Amelia and Mike. Every breath they took tasted of dread, a sickly sweet tinge that clawed at their throats. They ran, urgency fueling their every step, but darkness slipped like sand through their fingers. Panic clawed at her insides. Would they ever truly escape? "Quickly!" Mike yelled over the howls. His grip tightened around her hand, and still, the shadows stung like icy needles at her back, threatening to swallow them whole. Where was this sanctuary he spoke of? The shadows twisted her thoughts, painting grotesque images of their past, though there were only fragments left, a jigsaw puzzle missing too many pieces. Mike! She gasped. What do the shadows want? His eyes darkened, weariness etched into his features. They want you. They want to break you, to use your fear against you. But you're stronger. Remember that. With each word, the tumult of her memories surged, her laughter with Max, the tender moments before darkness had taken root in their lives. But the shadows were devouring those memories now. They cherished only her regrets, amplifying them until they screeched into madness. Focus! Mike barked, jerking her from the spiral. We can't let them in. They barreled ahead, skimming against the wall of shadows, which began to pulse as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Amelia felt its rhythm in her veins, a malignant echo that entwined itself with her soul. Suddenly, a flash of light drew her gaze. There, just beyond the swirling void, stood what looked like a door, pulsating with energy and warmth. Hope igniting in her chest, she pushed faster, her legs burning as she sprinted toward it. Amelia, stop! Mike shouted, the urgency in his voice mingling with panic. It's a lure! But her feet didn't listen. The door shimmered, a beacon of escape. She had to reach it. The shadows shrieked, clawing at her ankles, trying to drag her back, the ice of fear sinking deep into her skin. Mom! Please! Max's voice slithered in again, a twisted harmony wrapping around her resolve. This isn't the way. Come to us, we can be together again. The echoes of that plea wove into her mind, wrapping tight like a noose. She glared at the door, at the way it beckoned, but the voices danced around her, seductive and foul. They were promising warmth, a return to Max's childhood laughter. All she had to do was surrender. No! She screamed, pushing through the fog of doubt as Mike tugged her arm. The door flickered, like a flame in the wind. We can make it! Then, as they neared, the door splintered and a torrent of shadows was unleashed, exploding from its threshold like a swarm of locusts. It sucked the light from the world around them, leaving only a void that loomed over them like a titan. Run! Mike ordered, tearing her away from the pull of the swirling darkness. They veered left, but with every step, the shadows expanded, enveloping them in a profound despair. She could hear Max, the torment woven through his cries. Each call was a knife twisting deeper inside her. As they pushed through the chaos, a freezing realization gripped her. They were running out of time, running blindly into an unknown that reeked of death. Turn back! Max's voice echoed again, regret and anger mixing painfully together. You'll never win! No! She howled in defiance, fury igniting in her veins. I'm not yours! I choose to fight! With a final surge of will, Amelia found her footing, fueled by the fierce desire for freedom. But just as they rounded a bend, a shadow loomed large, coiling around Mike like a serpent, pulling him into the fathomless dark. Mike! She screamed, terror crashing over her. She reached for him, but the shadow struck back, knocking her aside with a chilling force. The world spun. For a heartbeat, all was silent except for her frantic breaths. Where was he? Desperation clawed at her throat as a haunting darkness began to engulf what little light remained. Amelia! In that moment, Mike's voice echoed, distant and fading. Don't give in! Heart pounding, she pulled herself upright. But the horror was thickening around her, deeper and more suffocating than before. Fight, Amelia! She whispered to herself as the shadows encroached once again, primal dread vibrating through her body. But she knew now, whatever horror awaited, she couldn't stop now. Mike needed her. And just as the fear threatened to consume her, she recognized the truth sometimes, the shadows are within us. The shadows screeched in answer, swelling around her, spiraling, waiting. And somewhere in the void she sensed an impending presence, something darker than fear, an entity that had been waiting for this moment. What if the true monster was yet to emerge? Amelia felt the walls of darkness closing in, a thick, sludgy mass that dripped with malice. Each pulse of the void seemed to sync with her heart, a wicked rhythm reminding her of the stakes. She could still hear Mike's voice echoing, a lifeline slipping through the vortex. "Don't give in!" How many times had they shouted that mantra? As the shadows started to pull tighter, she gritted her teeth, feeling the warm urge to scream silted deep, fighting against her throat. Panic surged within her. She could almost see Mike, enveloped in a cocoon of shadows, struggling against an unseen force. "Think!" Amelia commanded herself. "What's the plan?" The memories surfaced like bleached bones from the depths of her mind. Max laughing in the park, his face small and innocent, oblivious to the dark that would come upon them. They had played on that sunny day, unaware of the horror lurking on the edges of their carefree life. But now, those memories felt warped, grotesquely twisted by the shadow's cold grip. "Max!" she screamed, her voice ragged. "Help me!" But there was only silence, a void that mocked her cry. She couldn't let herself falter, not now. She needed to grasp onto something real, something that could cut through the haze. Focusing, she pushed back against the encroaching shadows, imagining a light deep within her, a spark that refused to be extinguished. The shadows writhed, sensing her defiance, shrieking like banshees, a cacophony that threatened to drown her. "All you are is pain," she hissed through clenched teeth. "I'm not afraid of you." And then, amid the growing chaos, she caught a glimmer of her own strength. It surged forth, igniting her spirit. Suddenly she threw her arms wide, as if she could embrace the darkness and transform it. "You will not have me!" the shadows wailed. In that moment, they morphed into twisted faces, contorted with rage, figures she thought she recognized. She squinted through the veil. Familiar expressions twisted in torment stared back at her. Friends, family, all the broken people who had wandered too close to the light she'd fought to forge. How wrong she'd been to think she could keep them safe. Behind her, Mike's voice cut through the fog, strained yet resolute. "Amelia! You have to fight for us." Tears stung her eyes. "I will!" she cried, reclaiming the fragments of joy, determination pouring out like intense sunlight, burning the shadows back into nothingness. The air rushed around her, invigorating and electric, as she swept her hand out. "Feed on this." The darkness recoiled as she unleashed a wave of light. It crackled in the air, illuminating the faces of terror before vanishing their forms into ash. All around started to melt, the ground trembling beneath her feet. "Mike!" she shouted, desperate to pull him back from the abyss. But the shadows fought with ferocity, crawling onto her skin, and she gasped as the cold burned. They clung desperately, whispering lies in her ear, the very fabric of her being convulsing with dread. "Join us," they hissed. "The darkness is home." Amelia stumbled back but steadied herself against the rising tide of despair. "No!" she yelled, letting the power of her resolve erupt. "I want to go back." With every ounce of her strength, she propelled herself forward, a being of will and desperation. If she couldn't free Mike from their grasp, perhaps they could break the barriers that separated them from the light. "Together!" she screamed, reaching out into the void. A blinding flare engulfed her hand, radiating at a frequency powerful enough to pierce through. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if she was indeed becoming one with the shadows or finally banishing them, and then, from the depths of the darkness, something began to rise, not merely the shadows that had haunted her, but a creature formed from every ounce of her fears and regrets, looming tall, with a visage crafted from pain and sorrow. "Who are you?" it growled, its voice a rumbling echo that shook the very ground. The air crystallized, freezing her thoughts as the realization struck like punctuation. It was drawing nearer, an entity forged in agony, one with more intelligence than any dark force she'd encountered before. "Answer me!" Her heart raced furiously. The battle was far from over, but no matter how deep the shadows crawled, she wouldn't let them claim her now. Not when she had Mike to save. But the entity's eyes, swirling with dark memories, locked onto hers with a gaze that threatened to pull her under entirely. "Your choice. Fight or be lost," it whispered, a sinister promise that lingered in the air. What choice would she make? Amelia stood trembling as the creature loomed closer, shadows writhing and curling around it like smoke. It was a darkness crafted from her own fears, a grotesque reflection of everything she had tried so hard to escape. No, she gasped, backing away instinctively. But she found her footing. Deep within her, a flicker of hope ignited a reminder of the love and laughter that still fought to live in her heart. "Mike!" she called, her voice trembling as she reached for something, anything solid. If they were going to face the darkness, they would have to do it together. Suddenly, a burst of light ignited around her, vivid and blinding amidst the murky shadows. It sliced through the gloom, revealing fleeting glimpses of the memories that had brought Amelia comfort: the joyful sound of Max's laughter, the warmth of sunny days in the park, even the quiet tenderness shared with her son at bedtime. Fueled by that surge of cherished memories, Amelia raised her arms, each word bursting free of the fear that had once held her captive. "I won't allow you to take anything from me. This is my life, and I choose to fight." The entity howled in fury, shadows twisting violently, snapping at her like hounds unleashed. "Let the past go," it snarled, and the shadows danced dangerously close, dark tendrils reaching out to envelope her. But Amelia pressed forward, heart racing. "I won't let my past define me." With that, she concentrated on the light, the same light that Mike had called forth, the light of their shared hopes. The creature recoiled momentarily, its form flickering at the edges. "No! You can't escape!" it roared, but its voice trembled, revealing the crack in its malevolent facade. And there, within the chaos, Mike emerged from the shadows. He was disheveled, but his eyes held a fierce determination that cut through the murky despair surrounding them. "Amelia!" he urged, rushing to her side. "Together, we can push it back." Amelia knew the truth now. To reclaim what was hers, they had to harness their collective strength. As he took her hand, a surge of heat and light coursed through them, a fusion of their spirits, eyes locked with unwavering resolve. "On three," Mike said, and she nodded, feeling the shadows ripple in fear at their union. 1, 2, 3. Together, they raised their voices, unleashing a wave of pure, radiant energy that shattered the darkness around them. It pushed back, shrieking in agony as the shadows crumbled and lost their grip. "Face it. You held us for too long," Amelia declared, pouring every ounce of will into the light. Shadows began to unravel, revealing the faces of those trapped by fear before dissolving into nothingness. "Amelia!" Max's voice echoed, a hint of desperation mixed with something deeper that pulled at her heart. "Please don't leave me." Suddenly, the flicker of innocence flashed in her memory, and her resolve strengthened. "Max! I'm here!" she shouted, feeling the weight of her love surge through her. "You are not lost to me. I trust you." As if her words had reignited something within him, Amelia felt a shift. The shadows flickered, and Max's form emerged, eyes melting back into the warmth she knew. "Mom?" he whispered, the taut thread of fear unraveling in his voice. "Help me!" The chain that bound him began to fracture as the explosive light enveloped him. "I won't let you go!" she cried, taking a step forward, her heart leading the way. With Mike by her side, they summoned their combined strength again, pushing through the remaining darkness until the wall of shadows collapsed in on itself with a deafening roar. Finally, the void gave way, revealing the soft glow of dawn on the horizon. They were free. Amelia turned to Mike, her heart racing with elation. The weight of darkness had lifted, the air clearing at last. But her gaze fell on Max. He stood unsteady, the ephemeral glow fading as the remnants of shadows sifted away. He looked vulnerable, and yet, there was a spark of his old self returning. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he trembled, stepping closer, fear and regret written across his face. "I should have listened. I was so lost." Amelia rushed forward, embracing her son, pulling him close. "It's okay, Max. You're here. We'll figure this out together." Her heart soared as she felt the warmth of their connection reigniting the bond of a family that would not be extinguished by darkness. As the first rays of sunlight broke through, spreading golden warmth across the remnants of shadow, Mike smiled at Amelia, gratitude shining in his eyes. "You did it. We did it." Amelia nodded, wiping away tears of relief. It's not just over, it's a new beginning, she said softly, holding Max's hand tightly between them. We've faced horrors, but we're stronger now. We'll carry the light with us. In the days that followed, life returned to their neighborhood in slow, cautious steps. The symbols faded, replaced by blossoming flowers as the fog of uncertainty lifted. Amelia knew they would always hold the remnants of their past, but together, they would continue to shatter any darkness that dared to loom. And as the sun set on a brighter horizon, Amelia took a deep breath, feeling hope blossom anew, a promise of love, family, and the courage to embrace every moment ahead. Remember, this is the moment to seize your own journey. If you're loving the stories you're hearing, you need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss out on the next thrilling adventure. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this community strong. Flood the comments section below with your thoughts, theories, and reactions to this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video. Get it out to at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel.